Up, up, up.
A huge shout out to the overthinkers. An overthinker. He watches the show. To the overthinkers. Shout out to my faith too. All of our faith to this Parker, yeah. Thank you, overthinkers.
Keep inspiring the next generation.
Shout out to the overthinkers. Tando Pela. Much love.
To my overthinkers, amamelo chopho ngeke kuphume buyakhula nizinja nikhokho yazini as overthink siya
Welcome everybody to the Overthinking Football Show. My name is Joseph Mokwena. I am your host, and this show is the place where we love South African football. We love African football, and every now and then we speak about England. Hurricane, what a winger. Guys, this show is on every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, unless of course I do put out an announcement on my statuses. So if ever you don't see me live, check on my statuses. But also, if Chiefs, Paris, Mamelodi, Sundowns, or bafana banyana are in action, I am here too, where we're going to be speaking about the games. I will be here live tomorrow for this game and the next one. So let's see what's going to happen there. Guys, please like, share, comment, subscribe, touch the screen, tap the screen, do everything you can to make sure that our little platform grows to everything that it can be. Now, of course, there's really only one thing that we can speak about. There's really only one thing that we can speak about here. Hey, what's happening? There's really only one thing we can speak about now, and it is going to be tomorrow's derby game. The derby is on tomorrow, and we're going to see what's going to happen between Chiefs and Paris. We're going to speak about that today and speak about why this derby makes sense, makes a noise, why it's important, and what happens in this derby. Because remember, this is the last dance. This is the last dance. This is the last dance for Coach Jose Rivero. Sorry, guys, I'm trying to get a guest on. There's a guest that I want to bring on, so I'm just trying to make sure that my guest can come on. So apologies for that, but it is Jose Rivero's last dance. And what's interesting about the next 2 weeks is that the next 2 weeks could mean very different things for the two different clubs. So on the one hand, you have Kaizer Chiefs, who has been going through one hell of a rocky season. They've been up and down quite a bit. And this is Coach Nabi's chance, now that he's qualified for the Nedbank Cup final, qualified for the CAF Confederations Cup. Maybe he beats Pirates this week, he beats Pirates next week. Now he's got a trophy, and he becomes the best Kaizer Chiefs coach in the last 10 years. The last 10 years. Then, of course, for Coach Jose Rivero, he's the man that technically, mathematically, theoretically, chemically, can still win this league if he can beat Kaizer Chiefs and keep themselves close enough to Mamelodi Sundowns for the league. But also next week is the Nedbank Cup, and should he win both of those things, or should he come close in the league, that's another 2 trophies or even a treble to help him out with his case for next season and maybe get the fans off of his back. So there's a lot of things that could happen in this game. But while I get my guest on, I'm going to allow people in, and just tell me what you think about tomorrow. Tell me what you think about where the two teams are sitting, and we can go from there. So let me see. Oh, let me see, man. There we go. Hey Tara, I just want to make sure something is supposed to pick up now. How are you, my brother?
Khona i-scratch. Ngikhona kodwa khona i-scratch la kule sound yakho angazwa.
Oh, couldn't scratch. Please don't tell me that. Am I fine?
Yeah, now we better now. Ngikrende uthi wena ukrende.
Man, ngimnandi man.
Yeah, ngikutshele something. Yabona kusasa. Kusasa so uplift i-case esike saba nayo for 10 years uthi.
Yeah.
Lama game ayi-2 azayo iPirates so uplifta le case iyaphela. So win i-cup ngePirates. Phele njengale drought e-Kaizer Chiefs. Kusasa kuzoba example ukuthi kuzoyenzakalani next week.
Manje uyamthemba uNabi. Uyamthemba uNabi going into this game.
Ngiyamthemba. Angiyazi ukuthi asange siwawina ama-game kodwa I think i-strategy lesi. Ona kuza nge-strategy because mangabheka ama-game we-cup i-Nedbank Cup owadlala ngathi he has everything to lose, yebo. Uyadlala like i-Kaizer Chiefs yaperforma kula ma-cup kodwa ku-PSL kumele kuchangwe iy'kimi bese sadliwa kodwa ku-cup ngiyamthemba mina bafethu. Elikini uyasibhayizisa kodwa hayi ekhapini we've been doing great. Siwinile sashaya onke ama-club asinikeza i-problem. Siwashayile siceda ukushaya Sundowns khona manje ekhapini. Yebo. So i-confidence iphezulu. Mina ngithi Pirates soyishaya kusasa kuzoba example ukuthi next week sobaphinda. Iyaphela le case ye-10 years.
Yewanda.
Kuwina ama-cup nge-Pirates. Izoba legendary le game. Le game yakusasa naleya weekend izoba enye. Hey, kuzoshisa uthi I can feel it in my blood. Hayi ngiyifuna la le Pirates, ngiyifuna la.
Manje tshela mina. Pirates obviously coming off of 2 losses. Pyramids, Kukune, they're coming into this game without CBC, but I'm sure they're going to want revenge. How do we stop them then from getting revenge, Coach Chiefs?
Bheka uthi yithi esifuna i-revenge. I-Pirates isishayile elikini yashaya ngomrobho. Yithi esifuna i-revenge. I-Pirates ayime kancane. Leti abayenze yona le elentuzane e-Egypt amanzi amancane bazoyibona kusasa ukuthi yini induku. Kusasa sobabonisa ukuthi yini induku. 3 goals izophuma 3-0 kusasa uthi. That's my prediction.
Yebana 3-0. Hayi okay, uthembe bani ukukora?
Ngithembulile bombonile ke la goal akashayile ngiyazi siluzile kodwa ulibonile la goal uthi outside the box composure uzana la yi-1 ulilepho mfethu ashaye elinye igoli lomhlaba ukuthi nje angazi kwenzakaleni we lost the game but it's fine. Kusasa kuzoba ulilepho number 2 kuzoba either one of the two uDuba no Mushabalala or between the two bazoshaya igoli. Ulilepo I think uzoshaya 2. Yeah.
Okay.
Ngeza bathi uzoba i-draw akuna draw kusasa bafethu. Khona abazokhala. Ibani prepared mabhakanila.
Hey, okay, no. Let me see. Thank you, my brother. Guys, I'm so sorry. I'm just trying to figure out what is happening here on my live. I'm trying to get a guest in so that we can have somebody here who's experienced some of this, who's been there. So let me see. Apologies, guys. Apologies.
Mr. Overthinking Football.
There we go.
We're cooking.
Now we're fine.
Took us
Guys,
long enough.
I wanted to welcome legend Mike. How are you?
I'm very good yourself, brother. What's
I'm
happening?
good. I've been priming everybody for you coming on now.
I'm glad we could sort it out.
Yeah. So, Mike, we're going to talk a little bit about this Soweto derby. How are you feeling? I know which side you're on.
Yeah, look, I'm not as confident as I was 3 weeks ago. That's for sure. It feels like the wheels are, I don't know, at least we've got a flat tire. I don't really know. We're losing a bit of steam here. Obviously, the CAF Champions League was just devastating, and obviously the last game was felt like a big hangover from that defeat, and I'm just hoping that we can put that all behind us now and for these next couple games. But it's tough, man. That the way we went out in the Champions League was horrendous, to be honest. And I know as a footballer, like you don't recover from that quickly.
And can you tell us a little bit now, as somebody who's played for Pirates, what does this week feel like for you guys? I spoke to Lakile Khwati yesterday, and he was telling me that this preparation starts the week before, and you have to get your mind right, and there's rules.
Yeah. No, look, I only was involved in 2 derbies, and I was a very young kid. I was 19 years old at the time, so like all those memories are a massive blur to me. But I do remember a couple rituals taking place, washing a little bit in a couple things. But no worse than anywhere else I've been in the PSL, to be honest. That's not really I've experienced worse in other clubs, but it's sort of part and parcel. But the derby is special, and you definitely feel it the whole week. And the day before, especially as a young kid, I can remember not being able to sleep. I can remember my heart rate leading up to the derby and watching the reaction of a lot of fans in the bus when you're driving to the stadium. Yeah, it means a lot.
We've been having a debate, Mike, about Pirates' style of play, and up to this point, you could maybe argue that they've been playing a very African style of play. They've been very resolutely, they've been good defensively, and they've been scoring, 1 or 2 goals and getting out of games, as you do a lot of the time when you watch North African football. How do you think they should approach the game tomorrow? Should we see the sort of exciting game we saw versus Pyramids, or should they just, bide their time?
Yeah, it's weird, because it's been almost 2 halves to the season, where in the first half of the season, Pirates was playing the most entertaining football, some of the best stuff to watch that I've seen from Pirates in such a long time. And then it feels like at the turn, everything changed. Obviously, we started implementing the 3 at the back as well to handle some of the bigger opposition in Africa. Obviously, used it against Sundowns as well, because we weren't going to play open again after the 4-1. So went to the 3 at the back, and since that, the more defensive approach. Now we're just not creating nearly as many chances. It hasn't been as fluid, that's for sure, since those changes. So the second half of the season's been a tough watch, and there's been a lot of 1-0 wins, draws, and not as exciting football. So the CAF journey's, I think, taken a lot of energy out of the squad.
Yeah. What's crazy is that when I watch Pirates, I always say that Pirates' biggest strength this season for me has been that when you need a goal from someone, someone comes up with it. Makaula will score out of the blue, Hoto will score out of the blue, Rile will find form at some point. Everybody has put up their hand really for this team to go out and score and score a lot of goals and win a lot of games. I mean, some of their best runs have come from this football that maybe we're not used to or that we like. So going into the game versus Chiefs, what do you think about Chiefs so far this season with Coach Nebi? Some have said he's cooking, some have said he's not cooking. He seems to be rescuing it here at the end.
Yeah, I actually think you probably have a better insight into you watch all their games. You're a Chiefs man. From in the games I've watched, I still struggle to see what he's trying to do. I thought in the beginning, the first 5 to 7 games, it looked like he was trying to implement a certain plan, but I think at a point he almost abandoned that plan, and I don't know. I struggle to see what the idea is, what the concept is behind Chiefs. It's almost like a lucky package. You never know what you're gonna get on the day. And then obviously when Sereno was out for a bit, because it feels like in the beginning they were just using him as everything went through him, and when he didn't play, they couldn't play. But now it looks like, I think obviously with Duba now becoming more of a focal point in attack as well, they're having to find different avenues to be more successful. So I don't really know what to make of them, which is actually scary as a Pirates man as well. Is that just feel like that on the day, if he mixes things up again, he just finds the right combo. That every now and again they've looked dangerous, but they can't seem to put together a decent run. What do you like? What do you think? How are you feeling going into this game?
There's two things. For me, number one, Coach Nebi, I think he's a vibes coach. I think he's a Carlo Ancelotti type of coach, where if he has the requisite quality and players that are responsible enough, he kind of just lets them go. Like I feel as though we don't necessarily have a structure, right? It's more of, okay, when you get into the final third, you guys go. Like, you guys will figure it out. You'll see what you're going to do. I trust you guys to play. So that's why you see a lot of the players are out of position a lot of the times. A lot of players are, there's no rhyme or reason as to why they're on the pitch at that point, right? So I think he's one of those coaches, which is interesting because Kaizer Chiefs, I think, is at a point where they need somebody who can instill a culture. You know, you speak about Pirates, you know how Pirates is going to play. You've known Pirates, the way Pirates have played for the last, 20 years. You've seen Lodge is very similar to Rile, for example, is very similar to maybe a Walaza or something like that. There's a roadmap, right? But with Chiefs, there isn't quite that thing. So that's the first thing. The second problem that I had with Kaizer Chiefs is that it feels as though we were taking the season for granted, almost. So it felt as though this is just a season where you could just let things go. You know, you can, we'll fix things next season. Everything is next season. Next season, we're going to sign the right players and do all of that stuff. And what happens is that you only ever see them really lock in when they're playing Pirates, when they're playing Sundowns, when they're playing the bigger games. I mean, I watched Chiefs playing Sundowns the other night when we beat them in the Nedbank semi. And, you know, you could tell that, okay, these guys were drilled. Modi was supporting Cross at the back. Cross was not going forward. They were sitting in a defensive shape. They weren't going forward like that. Chiefs plays with a 6-man attack at times. You know, Duba Lilepo, Modi, Cirino, Solomons jumps in, and then every now and then when Cross is playing pure left back, he also goes up. So now you find 6 players in attack, and then when we get countered, our defense shame. They can't do much. But when we play the big games, for some reason, they switch on and they're there the whole time. So I think Pirates is going to have to look out for that. In that I don't think this is going to be a reckless Kaizer Chiefs, but it is worrying. It's very worrying that we only wake up for these games.
Yeah, and how are you feeling about the goalkeeper situation? That's obviously been a massive headache for Chiefs. I mean, I've looked in some of the stats, and I think it's even now at this point of the season, I think the Kaizer Chiefs goalkeepers average like it's like a 50% save rate.
Yeah.
So when you take 2 shots against Kaizer Chiefs, you'll score 1. Like, that's an insane statistic, and that's not just talking about one keeper. That's all 3 of them. So it's like, it's not even like, you can't even think like, okay, well, this isn't working, let's go to the other one. They've tried all 3, and nothing's working. So obviously what happened in the last couple games as well doesn't lead much confidence into for the defense when you're looking behind you and you're thinking like, well, we can trust our keeper and what's happening behind us, keep things clean at the back. Like, how are you feeling about the goalkeeper situation? What's the solution there?
Look, you can't bring in anyone new right now. So I think Vuma's fine. I think the problem with Kaizer Chiefs' defense, for me personally, has been that it's the whole defense, goalkeeper and everybody. When the goalkeepers looked a little bit better, the defense was weak. We were conceding so many goals where honestly you couldn't ask the keeper to do anything more, right? And now that they're maybe finding their way, now the keeper is giving us a bit of problems. I think it's all a confidence thing, and I think honestly, all you can do is just ask them to go back to basics, right? Try your best to work for each other. You know, if you've got a defense, make sure the defense is solid and make sure that nobody is out of position. If you'd watch, I'm sure as the defender, if you'd watch Miguel and Dortley, they were often chasing balls. Everybody was chasing balls and leaving spaces and doing all of that stuff. But if we can get everybody to just sit back and just do the basics, if the goal goes in, the goal goes in, but let's not make it 5, 6, 7 chances that are taken against the goalkeeper. Bruce will have to step up. But I look, I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot of confidence problems, honestly, at Kaizer Chiefs. And unfortunately, Ntwari looks shaky when he comes in. I don't think he's acclimatized properly to playing for Chiefs. Peterson tends to make a lot of random mistakes. Vuma is our best bet. But yeah, there's nothing you can fix right now outside of confidence. So hopefully this run that they're on, going into the Nedbank Cup final, qualifying for the CAF Confed, hopefully that's going to feed into them and maybe they'll just have some defense. If you look at a player like Cross looks incredible over the past few games. And I think it's just because they've asked him to do the basics. Become a third centre back. Don't push up. Don't do anything too crazy, right? Just sit there. And he's looked so good in some of these games. I know there's been losses.
Do you remember in the beginning of the season when there were I think it was his first 3-4 games where they almost felt like they were asking him to get on the end of crosses and stuff. And
yeah.
He was finding himself he was playing left back, but he was he had to get on the end of crosses in the box and he was bombing up and down.
Yeah.
And then that was obviously the period where then Chiefs fans almost started to second guess him or whatever. But when you just let him defend and do his job, he's very solid. He's been very good.
And give him cover, Mike. Give him cover. I've been crying about him specifically because on the left-hand side, we don't have cover usually. So he's usually defending one man, having to go all the way up and come back. But then also when you're being attacked on the wing, you have to go and meet the danger. So he was being caught out positionally because of all of that stuff. But I want to ask you, on defense, Pirates, you guys found a gem with Mbogazi, but now you've lost out on CBC. He's not going to play this game. Toki has stepped in and he's looked a little bit off the pace. How do you feel about the defense? You guys were suffering so well. I always say Pirates were suffering so well. And all of a sudden...
I was at the activation now in the Val now, and obviously they send the guys there that are not in the squad for the game.
Yeah.
Match day -1. And at that activation was Nda and Sesane, and now Sabisi suspended as well. And I was just thinking, you've got those three, those are the best 3 centre backs for me. Obviously, Mbokazi coming in now, it's hard to classify him as it's going to be his first derby. But I mean, those 3, if we had Sesane and Nda now, I feel like we would be in the Champions League final. And look, I feel like Tapelo has been really good when he plays in the back 3. I think that suits him perfectly as the middle of the back 3 with Mbokazi on the left of him, Sibisi on the right of him, and he can just marshal things because he's a great leader. I mean, I played with him at Amazulu for many years. He's a great guy, great leader, very vocal. So I think with 2 guys next to him that are incredible one-on-one defenders, very strong aerially, everything, have all the attributes you need from your centre backs. So in the back 3, I liked him. In the back 2, you can sometimes get caught out. And with Sibisi, everything that could have gone wrong went wrong in the last game. Sibisi getting sent off was the cherry on top because. To miss this game, I think they're just lucky the fact that they've squeezed the Arrows game in next week so that he doesn't miss the cup final. So, it's not ideal, but I think Tapelo and Mbokazi can do a job. I mean, Kaizer Chiefs they create a lot of chances, but they haven't scored that many.
Yeah. Well, the quality of the chances is a whole nother conversation. But Mike, I want to ask you then, with this defense, what do you think of this? I've been thinking about Pirates' defense, and one of the things that have struck me is that you guys have great defense when you have sort of an old head and a younger player. Like you look at CBC Mbogazi, you look at Nda Sesane, Koki CBC at some point with that. Do you think that dynamic plays into it? As somebody who plays in the defense, you've spoken about playing with Tapelo Toki. Do you think that dynamic plays into this, that there's a leader? I mean, if you look at old Pirates, Lakile Khwati with Roy Mahamudza or Lakile Khwati with Sangweni, do you think that plays into this at all?
massively. I think it's you can get away with the young defense for so long, but there's something to be said for like a leader that commands and not necessarily dominates in terms of aggressive defending or anything, but just being able to organize. It's so important. And you see that all over the world at most clubs. I mean, like Liverpool, Virgil van Dijk gets injured, and for a season we like literally can't compete in the Premier League. He comes back, and everyone else around him, you start to say, "Oh wow, Joe Gomez is a fantastic defender." It's like, yeah, playing next to Virgil van Dijk. Like you do need that one guy that leads the line. So he's the one who calls the offside line. He's the one who often say, "Okay, we're dropping now, we're pushing up now." If you don't have that one guy and you're relying on a lot of younger heads that are maybe it's not confident enough to make those big calls and to be so vocal in those situations, it's big. And obviously the goalkeeper as well. So that's where we do have the positive, is that obviously we've had a very solid goalkeeper for a very long time now. I think Sipo's one of the best in the country, and he's a great personality as well. So what we lack when we lose, say, Sabisi or Tapelo, they make up for with Sipo at the back for sure. And there's a lot of respect there between him and the back four. There's a lot to be said when you trust your goalkeeper as well. Yeah. Because I look at Chiefs sometimes and you think that maybe there's not necessarily that trust. And you sometimes as a defender do things you wouldn't normally do because you're not sure of what's going to happen behind you. So when a keeper calls keeper and you're not convinced or you don't trust him, sometimes you headed the ball anyway because you're like, flip, if he's called keeper, yeah, but he's missed it before. Whereas with a keeper you trust and they shout keeper, like when I'm playing with Ronwin and Ronwin comes out shouting keeper, you just duck because you know there he is. Like you can trust him. But as soon as that trust is gone, it becomes a big issue.
Who's your starting centre back pairing when everybody's fit?
Who's the best centre-back pairing?
Yeah, for you. Who's your starting centre? Because you've got Ndase Sane, you've got Bogazi CBC, you've got Toki, Maela still there. You can maybe put him there.
Throwing a massive spanner into the works here, because I'd always just say Nda and CBC would be the best two. That's not taking age into account. Obviously, Sisane. Sure, it's tough. I'd say there's four. I'd rotate between Nda, Sibisi, Mbokazi, and Sisane. Those four. Yeah. You've got four backs, and you don't need more than that because Mbokazi can cover on the left as a left back as well if necessary. We've got a lot of depth there. But as we've seen with injuries, we needed all that depth because.
Yeah, you played everybody. You've brought guys in from DDC, given people debuts. It's been insane.
I actually can't believe the rise of Mbokazi, the games that he's had to play in as a youngster. Like I'm thinking, I watched the crowd in that MC Alger game, and I'm thinking there's seasoned professionals, guys that have played 10, 15 years, that would have crumbled in that environment. Like the environment was insane, and he literally bossed that game. He was those North African guys are big units. They solid. I mean, he manhandled some of those.
He was stronger. He was stronger.
He's so impressive, and what'll benefit him obviously is when Nda and Sesane comes back and it doesn't have to play every game because you also don't want him to get to the point where I think. Filter him in slowly. He's now come in and we've had to throw him into the deep end and he's absolutely smashed it out the park. But just ease it off a bit because it's worrying that Pirates so heavily rely on him. And I mean, he's put up his hand for AFCON call-up as well, which is crazy.
All in a couple of months. It feels like he just started.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, just incredible.
How do you guys do it? Because we've got youngsters at Kaizer Chiefs. We've got youngsters, actual youngsters, and we've got youngsters that have been youngsters in our mind for a very long time that haven't quite knocked on, right? You look at a Duba who's been there for a while. I know he's got some injury issues. You look at Nkosi Mpilengob, who's been at Kaizer Chiefs for a very long time, but we still sort of view him as a youngster. You look at Mfundo Vilakazi, Samgelo Zwani. There's so many youngsters that we've had in and around Chiefs, but of of recent memory, they haven't been able to kick on. Whereas you look at the Pirates, and Nkota comes in and performs. You know, Relay comes in and performs. You have guys who are maybe not so young, but Talent Mbata comes out of nowhere and performs. You look at Bogazi, comes out of nowhere and performs. Like, there's so many different Libitzo, like there's so many youngsters that have come through. What is it that Paris does so different?
George, man, like I'm not even lying here when I said so. I was for the Black Label All Stars game. I went to like all the training sessions with that team where Samkelo Zwane was there. I watched all the training sessions, and everyone was there. I mean, Rele was there, Lord was there. All those guys were in those training sessions. Samkelo Zwane ran the training session, like the 11v11 in training. I can't tell you how impressed I was with him. Like, I thought he was a good player. Some of the touches, but you watch him in training, like literally he dominated the whole training session. Everything went through him. He bossed like this 11-11, and I just thought to myself, like, where is this guy at Kaizer Chiefs? He's not that. He's so talented. Like, I didn't know, and I haven't seen that Zwane in a Chiefs shirt, but he's unbelievably gifted. And I think it's a lot of his environment and how much belief a coach has in you. I think that's where Pirates has been. I mean, you just look at how many youngsters Rivero's brought through at Pirates. If you don't have that trust and you don't get thrown into the big games and you don't get put into a setup that really suits you, it makes it almost impossible. And I think like environment's massive, but it'll be one of those situations where like you turn into like a Man United where no one looks great at your club, but as soon as they leave your club, they look incredible.
Yeah, they look amazing.
So it's like my biggest worry is like, so Zwane, you eventually he doesn't crack it at Chiefs, he goes somewhere else. I'm telling you, he's going to shoot the lights out. He's a special footballer, but I don't know how. Like, you got to create an environment for these youngsters to flourish.
For me, I've just thought that Kaizer Chiefs right now is not a place where you can develop. Unfortunately, it's not a place where you're going to get the time, the space, the patience. Sometimes you even need a little bit of quiet around you. And I think what Pirates does so well, man, it's again that thing I was speaking about. You know, Bogazi is not playing alone; he's playing with Spisi. You know, Rile doesn't have to worry about being alone. He's playing with Tito. You know, like there's a Tito next to him. There's a Hotto right behind him to cover him. There's so much great structure, you know. And the sad thing about Kaizer Chiefs, unfortunately, is that, about the league in general, is that I don't think the coaches have enough time. I don't think coaches have enough time to be allowed to make the mistakes that you're going to make and still recover from them. And I think the only places you can really develop is like Stellenbosch with Coach Steve Barker, who's been there forever. You know, Supersport was one of the places because, you know, Coach Hunt had been there forever. You know, Coach Rivero had paid his school fees for 3 years, winning trophies back to back to back to back. Do you think that we as somebody who also came through when you were 18, 19, how do you feel about like the development, especially in the big clubs? Because we have a DDC team at Kaizer Chiefs that has just won the DDC. And my worry is I'm sitting there going, where are these players going to go? You know, what's going to happen to them?
Yeah, there's a lot to be said for like coming through when your team's doing well. Because if you look at Pirates, like for these guys to come through now, and the fans are happy with the coach, they're happy with the environment. There's a lot of positivity around the place. It's just so much easier. And that's obviously at the big clubs. Like, I mean, I came through at Pirates, but most of my like young years, 19, 20, was actually spent at Bidvest Wits, which was probably the best thing for my career. I went on loan. I forced my way out of the Pirates to say I need to go play football. And that's maybe what some of these Chiefs youngsters need to do, is that I went to a club that was a whole young group of players like Sfiso Mieni, Patrick Pongwayo. It was General Vilakazi, like a whole bunch of youngsters trying to make their way in the football space. And Wits didn't have the budget to go out and splash on big guys, so they relied on youngsters. So that was the model back then. But I had to go out of these big clubs to go find a place for me to grow my career. it's a super tough place for you to come into one of these Soweto giants and try to build your career as a youngster. I think the Pirates youngsters have been incredibly fortunate with Jose Rivera. Like, he's created like an environment and that's what makes me worry so much about him leaving, is that I don't know like who comes next that can keep that kind of environment. Because I mean, we've seen this so many times when then a new coach comes in and they're maybe not familiar with the youngsters or don't trust the youngsters, and then all of a sudden it just doesn't, that environment's not the same anymore. So it's a big worry for Pirates. It looks like an impossible guy to replace almost, because of the cup success firstly, but also how many youngsters he's blooded over the years.
Yeah, no, big shoes. Huge shoes. Yeah.
As much as you say Nabi, like, you're filtering these youngsters, but he loses 3 games in a row. Like, what are the Chiefs fans saying?
Yeah.
Like, they say it's not time for youngsters. Give us results. So, what do you do? It's so tough.
Yeah. No, it's insane. It's insane. Look, I've the conversations I always have, and even on the show, the guys in the comments will be my witness. We always speak about that. Like, are we intentionally developing some of the kids, or are we just letting them ride off of their talent? You know, are we just, plucking Mbogazi, finding Mbogazi out of nowhere, throwing him into, you know what I mean, the league, and then it's like 10 years from now, he hasn't gone past the level where he was because nobody actually planned. Like, I like what you said about, the other guys will come back and maybe it's not the time for him to play so many games and things like that. We have to be very, very intentional with those type of things. And I just worry, Mike, Samgelo Zwani, Pundo Vilakazi, we've seen it with Shabalala. I just worry what's going to happen to their careers, because those guys are the future of our football. You need them to be developing properly. If you look at Puso Tejani, left the DDC team because he wasn't getting a space in the first team. Now he's playing in the TS Galaxy, and maybe you ask the question of, shouldn't you have sent him there anyway? Shouldn't that have been the plan, that, okay, you're looking like one of the stars, there's no space for you, let's send you somewhere else to go play. But back to the derby. Midfield. So many questions in the midfield. You guys, do you play Tito? Do you keep with Mbata and Makaula? Do you worry about the build-up of Mbata and Makaula? Or do you just not change anything if it's not broken?
Cash 100% comes back in. I think that was a big error in the last game. I think he's such a crucial part of this team now that he has to play every game. So Cash comes in for sure. I'd play him next to Mbata. For me, Mbata was actually our best player in that game. He's been, it's tough. But Mbata, I'm a big fan of Mbata. I think he gives you a lot of steel in the midfield. I think it makes them very difficult to break down, and I love the fact that he can shoot from distance. It gives you a whole nother dimension there. I mean, even in the last game, I think he had 3 or 4 decent efforts. He finds himself in a good spot to take good shots, and I like that about his game. But it is whether we play Tito, whether we go with Lamini again. I like when we go with Tito because it gives us more attacking impetus. Lamini's just that plays that little bit deeper, and I think Tito breaks lines, especially when he's in the mood. When he's in the mood, I feel like he's one of the best players in the country, and when he trusts Cash and Mbata to bring the ball out from the back, because often when he sees that the build-up's not that fluid, then he drops too deep to come get involved.
Yeah.
But when he trusts those two to sit in front of the back four and to bring the ball out, I feel like they do have the ability, and he just needs to sit behind the Chiefs midfield and wait for them to find him, because when they find him in that pocket, he can cause chaos. So that would be my ideal midfield, would be those 3.
Yeah, Pirates' midfield, it's a little bit irritating to me, because like, you guys have all the ingredients. So for example, I think beginning of last season, Ndlondlo was such an important player to Pirates. Ndlondlo was so incredible in actually going back and fetching the ball and almost deep lying playmaking.
About Miguel Tim,
Yeah, Miguel Tim. There's Miguel Tim there too. But then I watch Mbata and Makaula, and I feel like sometimes they're afraid of the ball. Like sometimes a lot of the balls go to Mbogazi a lot, and he has to play that long ball. There's this long ball that they play where relays like one-on-one with a defender with a high ball, and it doesn't work out. So sometimes I worry about the play going forward. I also worry about that 10. Is Pito still a 10? Is the experiment for relay to be a 10 still running? Can those two play together with Mahopa? It's just, I worry about that dynamic sometimes.
Yeah, no, it's worrying because obviously Mahopa had, as much as I love him for his work rate and everything, he hasn't looked like scoring of late. And then I don't know what's happening on the other side with Mabasa as well, because they don't even look like they want to start him at all, and they're just using him in parts. So it looks like the only option is to play Mahopa up front. Yeah, Mabasa's, I don't really know what's going on there because he hasn't been that effective of late either. But the one thing I do like about him is that he stays in the box.
Yeah.
So Mahopa, because he works so hard for the team, he finds himself running down channels all the time. But then often there's not a threat in the box. So that's what I like about Mabasa, and give Mabasa half a chance and he'll score. And in a game like this, there might not be a lot of chances, and when one falls, you do need someone there that's going to put it away. But he hasn't played regularly now. I mean, for the last, I'd say, 2-3 months, I can't remember the last time he played longer than 60 minutes. So how sharp is he and ready to go? Limited options up front, but the one positive is Nkota's in good form. In Africa in particular. That goal he scored the other day was absolutely sensational. He's been special. I really like him as well.
He likes the North. He likes the North so much. Scored 2 in Algeria, scored again. Something about North Africa in him.
100%. So maybe you like the taste of Miguel there at the back. Let's.
No, but it's so interesting because, I mean, I know we're speaking about Pirates, but then also about Chiefs. If you look at that midfield, I'm still not quite sure also what we want to do. Because it doesn't feel like.
What's your perfect three? What would you like to go for with your 3-man midfield?
Honestly, I would love to see a midfield 3 of Mtetwa maybe as a single pivot 6. You have Tele playing maybe as an 8, and then Sereno as the 10. But it's not necessarily about the players. I think it's more about the roles. And that's where Chiefs gets a little bit confused at times. Because
Can you give Sereno a role? Can you give him a role, a defined role, Sereno?
I want to. I feel like they've got too much freedom. They've got way too much freedom, Mike.
He's entered this league, and I mean, I know this more than most playing as a 6 against him, is that he doesn't get involved at all when you defend. Like, he literally is not interested at all. But the worrying thing is, like, then as soon as you lose the ball as the opposition, he's free all the time. But he will literally walk around while you have the ball, looking for the best place to stand. So when you lose the ball, but then that just means he doesn't have it. He doesn't really form a part of your shape. He decides where he's going to play, and that's where he finds his space. And it makes it very difficult. But if you are not effective at finding him, you basically just become a passenger.
And that's why that's my worry here, Mike, that Sereno's an incredible player. But because we play in such fluid system, having one fluid player is fine. Like, having Sereno be fluid is fine. But if 4 players are just running around all over the place and they're all finding themselves in different places, it becomes hard to consistently create chances or create moves or do things, right? I want to see the ball on Sereno's foot almost every single attack that we can go to. But now he's running on the other side, and Mdu's over there, and Duba's dropped back, and the other one's right. Like, you need to be able to give them a structure. I like the idea of having Tele maybe in an 8-ish role so that he can fetch the ball from the back, and then maybe he's the guy that communicates with Sereno in that way. But more than anything, I need him to play centrally, because Chiefs does this thing, and we've seen it with him, we've seen it with Dolly, where they love sending them out to the right-hand side. And I feel like they're so ineffective from the right-hand side where we're crying out for him. I call Serino the brain of Kaizer Chiefs, in that when they get into the final third, he's the guy that can make the pass. Like if you watched earlier in the season, a lot of the balls were coming from him, and he would make the right choice to pick out whichever runner, because we've got a lot of runners, to pick up the right runner. But then as the season went on, he started losing that, central role, and I need him to come back there. But I would love to see him with Cele and Mtetwa just for the role. We need a defensive midfielder who's just a defensive midfielder, like somebody who's just no nonsense. We're covering the defense. Like, I'm not going to move from here, even if it's just to have a body in front of the defense so that nobody comes to us centrally. I would be happy with that. So that's my three that I would pick, honestly.
Yeah, and not Mart as a 6. You're not a huge fan.
If I had to choose between Mart and Cele, I wouldn't know. I don't want Mart as a 6. I don't want Mart as a 6. I don't like him as a 6 at all. I like him as an 8. I think he can press. He's pressing up high. He wins balls a lot. And if you look at a lot of our attacks where we score, Mart is actually part of a lot of those moves. So I'd love to see him a little bit higher. It's just that in my scheme, I prefer Cele more, because Cele is more controlled in the passing. But Mart has a role. Mike, I believe that every player has a role. It's just that sometimes coaches and sometimes fans, we have expectations of players to do things that they're not comfortable with. And we just want to see them there a lot. If Mart can play 8, I think he'll be incredible. I think we'll swallow all of our words with Mart. But if he keeps playing 6, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And Lelepo, I mean, he looks like a massive threat, but just hasn't converted in a lot of his chances yet. But I mean, he looks like a massive handful for defenders to deal with.
I like him a lot. I think he's got a lot of energy. He's got a lot of, I remember the first time I watched him live, I was at the last derby, actually. I think it was the last derby when he came on. There was a point where he came on, and the touches he was making were so good. Like, the guys who were around me were sitting together and everybody was going crazy that he's got such an awareness. But it sometimes feels like he's a one-man show, unfortunately. Like, there's no support. So if you look at the goal he scored, was it last game or the game before, where he had to beat 4 players and score? I'd love to see him again in a system where he can interact with some of the other guys, maybe with Serino a bit more, maybe with the striker Duba a bit more. It feels like he's always so far away, and I feel as though we're trying to force him to play as a winger. But maybe he's more of an inside forward type of player, or maybe he'll be good enough in a 2 up front type of thing. But I like him very much. I want to ask you, up front with Pirates, Mahopa, Mabasa, what are the strengths and weaknesses of the two? Obviously, you touched on a lot of the Mabasa stuff, but what are the strengths and weaknesses of the two, and how do you make it work with Pirates? Because I've seen, for example, I believe Tito Mabasa and Fukeng can't play together. It almost feels like they all fight for the same space. Like, he likes to drop into Tito's space. Relay was playing that experimental 10 type of thing, and they were crowding each other. But the moment that Coach Rivero took out Mfukeng, there was that game where he took out Mfukeng, Tito had a little bit more space. There's games where Tito's not playing and Mfukeng's playing with Mahopa, and Mahopa dropping in allows them that space in behind, and he likes to drag defenders. How do you make it work, in your mind?
I think that's been the biggest problem for the last 3-4 months, is that it hasn't been fluid. They haven't found the combo that's working. Because I feel like for the first 4 or 5 months of the season, that was Pirates' strength, was Mofokeng dropping in off the left wing, getting on the ball, turning, and then he had runners. He had Tito off his shoulder combination play, and that's what was so smooth. But that's sort of gone away. Man, I don't know. Actually, that's been Pirates' biggest issue now, is that that front three is not fluid, is not combining that well anymore. And it's very difficult to see a solution for this weekend, because I don't see a situation where he starts Mabasa. The last time he tried to start Mabasa was extremely ineffective. And it's just, he's just been frozen out for too long now, where I don't think he's sharp enough to start.
Yeah.
But I think Makopa starts again, and I think just because of his work rate. And I mean, I hate the term, but the guys like to say that they're like a defensive striker. He does
Central defensive striker.
Yeah, like he's got so much more ability than that. And when he's in form and when he's on song, he does give you a lot. And I think we've seen that at the national team as well. Is that when you use him correctly, he can be a very effective tool. But yeah, we need. You just end up relying on Morpho King's magic every time, and I think it's a lot of responsibility to put on him, because when the team's not fluid, how many times this season has he found a moment of magic to pull the team out?
Yeah.
And same thing with Nkota now as well. He seems to be doing the same thing, where you're thinking, where's the goal going to come from? And then Morpho King does something, Nkota does something. So we really hope that there's more fluid attacking football from both teams, because we really don't need a goalless derby. Again, we don't need to go back to the boring derbies of 3-4 years ago.
Mike, I want to touch on this psychologically. How do you think the players are handling this right now? You know, Pirates coming off of the loss to Pyramids. Maybe you might say that Kukune, the loss to Kukune maybe put a little bit of a dampener on them going for the league. You know, maybe there's a little bit of pressure now in this game and the next one, because you're playing Chiefs twice. We'll start with Pirates. How do you think Pirates, does this play into their minds? Do you think that this has an effect?
I did. The second quarter, the body language I saw in the last 20-30 minutes of that game, I didn't like. It just, like, there wasn't that desperation to win that game, because even when they went behind, normally you get that like instant reaction to say, okay, hold on, we need to get back into this game, and it wasn't that, and I didn't see that much fight from Pirates when they went down, and that's what just made me feel like it's still, they're just so deflated from the way that they exited the CAF. And under Rivera, like, you almost felt like you couldn't lose a cup game, because he's been so successful in his time there. It's like some crazy record of, he's only lost 3 cup games out of 50 games he's been at Pirates. It's almost like it's impossible for us to lose under this guy. And then that happened, and you almost just like, oh, well, how did that happen? Like, and it just deflates. It feels like it's deflated everyone, not just the players, the supporters, everyone. It took a lot of wind out of the sails. So this is now where the coaches earn their money. This is the time where you've got to remotivate again. And how much like bargaining power does he have with the fact that he leaves in 2 months? Like, does he have that buy from the guys to say like, hey, let's go again. Let's push again. Let's see if we can. And then because then at the other side, like, you lose one game and then Sundowns absolutely dominates. And then you're just thinking, okay, well, there we go. It's like, we can't even slip up once, because we slip up once and it's done. Like, that's the reality in this league now, is that in the past, like, you drop some points, you hope the opposition drops some points, and you sort of go head and head, but you lose one game and Sundowns wins 4-0 or 4-1, and you just look at the log table and it just looks insurmountable.
But also psychologically, I'm sure there's a positive side to that. I mean, a derby is the derby. You win the derby, you know, that's a push. You win the next one, which is the Nedbank Cup. Now you've got 2 trophies again. Maybe you look at the rest of the games in hand and you go, you know, we can win all of this.
100%. Actually, like, how are Chiefs fans, how do you think they'll react if they don't win this Nedbank Cup? Because it's been so long, and they finally see this light at the end of the tunnel. There's a light there now, and they obviously, like, when I'm speaking to fans and stuff now, there's this feeling like we've waited so long, here it comes. Like, here's our next opportunity. What happens if Chiefs don't win that game, because it almost feels like this could be like Nabi's ticket out of, like, maybe gets a little bit more support from the fans, maybe get a little bit more support from the club, and they support him in the next transfer window, and it all sort of goes according to plan. But what happens if he doesn't win?
I think Nabi is in. I can't explain the position he's in, because I think for some reason he's the most trusted coach that we've had. I think it's a mixture of us trusting him, but then also not wanting to chop and change another coach, that I think he's almost protected, you know, from anything that might happen here. A lot of guys are just clapping at the fact that we're getting to the finals. A lot of people are happy with the Confederations Cup qualification for next season. A lot of people, even though, I mean, statistically, goals wise, points wise, he's been, if not equal, worse than Kevin Johnson and Mulifinteki and them, right? But I think there's such an optimism around him that he's still got a little bit of leeway to ride that. And if he loses the Nedbank Cup, I don't think too much happens. If he wins the Nedbank Cup, yeah, that's going to be that's going to be insane. Like, that's going to be something. Yeah, no, it's going to be like we won a star. So I don't think he's under pressure. But I think the sad part about Chiefs is that, you know, you speak about body language. You know, when you watch the body language of him and the team, that's my big worry, you know, how you lose games and things like that. Like in the beginning of the season, he looked like a coach that was, you know, no, guys, we need to keep going, you know, smiling, always behind the players. But you could just tell it took an immediate turn when the pressure was on. And I think the players are feeling it. So going into the game, I think they might be thinking that, you know what, this is the chance for us to redeem everything. I mean, if you saw just the response when we beat Mamelodi Sundowns, just that response was insane. So I think, yeah, I don't know if there's pressure, honestly speaking. I don't know if there's pressure. I think the only pressure is that you don't want to lose, 3 derbies in a row. You know, you don't want to lose 3 derbies in a row at all.
Would you take a Nedbank Cup trophy but finish out of the top 8?
Yes, I would. Just to get the trophy in, Mike. The cabinet has dust in it. It's 10 years of dust. We just need that top 8. I mean, that Nedbank Cup there. I would definitely take it over top 8. I would have taken, for example, the Champions League over top 8 when Gavin Hunt had us, when Tshwane got us to the final of the CAF Champions League.
Yeah.
If it's a trophy, I am taking it. What is Roddy's?
Sure. To finish out of top 8 for Chiefs 2 years in a row would be bad. Eh?
It's so weird, Mike. People fight me. I don't think Chiefs fans care. For some reason, this season, we've resigned ourselves to, like, you know what, man, we're just building or whatever's happening. Like, I mean, the last time we finished top 8 was at Tshwane when we finished 5th, right? That's insane. But everybody just seems fine with it. And I think next season is going to be very interesting for Nabi. Will he be able to live up to all of the hype that's going to come? Because there's expectations. Like if you look at a coach Rulani, he signed for Wydad. There was a huge expectation. You know, he rode that expectation. Everybody, you know, what happens to Nabi next season? You know, this season we gave you off. You know, you're building, you don't have your players, blah, blah, blah. Next season starts. What excuses do you have and what type of pressure do you have? That is a huge question.
Yeah, but that shows you, like, look at North Africa. I mean, Rulani took over at Wydad. I think they finished 6th in the league last year.
Yeah.
He will have secured him a better league position this year, and he still loses his job.
Yeah.
Like South Africa, like Nabi got the job. Chiefs finished 9th or I think 9th last season. It looks quite likely that they'll end in a similar place. But he's still got trust from the ownership. Like the North Africa is brutal. Like there's no time. I mean, look at Ahly. I mean, that coach won numerous
Champions
trophies.
Leagues.
I mean, I think he won 11 titles or something in his time at Ahly, and he just didn't get them to another final because of a last-minute own goal. And thank you, there you go. Like, look, I mean, if Kaizer Chiefs definitely going to give Nabi more time, but it just shows you like there's definitely more faith placed in coaches, and there's definitely more time given to the guys here. And I don't know if that's a good starting point for coaches, and maybe that's why they like to come here, because they know it's a little bit safer.
Would you take Rulani at Pirates, seeing as Coach Jose is on his way out?
I don't mind the idea of Rulani just because I think people forget how good that Sundowns team was that he coached like last season. I mean, they were one game away from being perfect.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel he gets the recognition for that. Everyone's like, he had this, it's all the players. There's a massive skill in taking a lot of like great players and big name players and managing a squad and putting them on the field and bringing them all together. And I still feel like he's criminally, like, he didn't get the credit he deserved. Like, he's still, when you mention his name now, people are like, no, I don't really like him, not for me, not for us. And I think like that Sundowns team is one of the best teams we've seen in the PSL era by far. They absolutely dominated. They went to Egypt, and like they made those teams in Egypt scared of South African teams. Like, I've never seen Ahly sit in a low block, like terrified of a South African opposition before. And that's literally what he had with that Sundowns team. I think they had like 80% possession in Egypt. Like, it's unheard of. And look, it's a big if, but if he could replicate something like that at Orlando Pirates, what a dream. I loved watching that team of his. But yes, it's different groups of players. Yes, it's different. But if you can it's a beautiful brand of football to watch. Like, what he did at Sundowns was special, and whether you can replicate that somewhere else, no one can know. But just off the back of that, I would say I wouldn't mind.
If you could, who are your top names for this Jose Rivera job? Do you think that it needs to be somebody that we know also?
That's the thing. I think Pirates will go with somebody where you'll be like, oh, who's that? Another plumber, or like where you'll think. But there's there's a few names where I think like that makes a lot of sense. Like Ramovic, for me, obviously knows South African football. He's done very well. What he achieved at Galaxy was very good. He built a good squad. I liked him a lot. I thought he was received very well by South Africans, by the players. Really liked him. I liked him. The name that I keep throwing into the hat just out of hope, but I almost guaranteed he wouldn't leave Stellenbosch, is Steve Barker.
Yeah.
Just because I feel like the nature of the Pirates squad now, with all the youngsters and the sort of model that Pirates have put together now, I feel like Steve Barker's ideal, but I don't see any reason why he would want to leave Stellenbosch. So Stellenbosch probably hate me for keep throwing his name in the hat, but I just feel like he'd be a perfect fit for Orlando Pirates and the squad that we have. Because my biggest worry is we bring in a coach that doesn't trust the incredible youngsters, and not even just from a Pirates point of view, but from a South African point of view, and bafana. Because if you look at how many players that Rivera has brought through that have turned into national team regulars, without him giving those players the platform, we don't get a Mofokeng, we don't get an Nkota, we don't get an Mbukazi. That's a coach just giving our players a platform to shine. And it's such a difficult. I like it. You almost feel like he's irreplaceable, because I don't know if he comes in and gets that same kind of success with youngsters. That's other coaches will come in and say, open the checkbook, I need to buy big names. He didn't say that. He said, give me these DDC boys and I'll win you trophies, no problem. It was special.
I think the funny thing about the Paris job is that what Jose did so well was to respect the Pirates culture, firstly. Like, he respected what Pirates was. And he was like, okay, I'm not going to go and do crazy things. I mean, when he arrived, he didn't even get a preseason, I think it was. He didn't get a preseason. He had to work with what he had. And he has done so well within that structure of Pirates to not change it. I think Chiefs and Pirates unfortunately, or fortunately, I think there are teams that need coaches that are not creative, if for a sense. It's not like you're going to come and change everything and you're going to. It's like you get into the system, you do your job. I mean, when Kaizer Chiefs was Kaizer Chiefs, no coach had more than 2 seasons. It was always 2 seasons. You come in, you win, you leave. You win, you leave. Your job is just to manage, to manage this thing, not necessarily to change it. So with the names that I'm hearing, like when you think about Coach Rulani, when you think about Coach Pitso, you know, Coach Benny has been thrown in. I feel like I don't want to be mean, but I feel like they want to build something new. They want to build something in their image. They want to make something that's theirs, which is incredible for coaching. But at Pirates, even just personality-wise, I think Coach Jose, one of the things that are so underrated, Jose personality-wise, there's no noise in the media. There's no, like, he manages expectations so well, right? Like, I think he's one of the coaches where he's won 5 trophies up to this point, and everybody was still like somewhat treating Pirates like an underdog type team. Like, no, there's still credit to the fans too. That's going to be very important, I think, for the next guy, because if you come in and it's noise and all of that stuff, I don't know if it works.
I absolutely hate to say this, but like, what is the objective of like a coach coming into Pirates and Chiefs now? Because I feel like, are you trying to win the league? Like, are we just realistic here that gap is so big?
Yeah.
And just being in that conversation and being in that fight with Sundowns, I feel you've overperformed. And so, like, when you come in, like what Rivero's achieved by winning all the trophies he has, I feel like that's the best case scenario almost. And like that, it's like a horrendous thing to say, because you almost like saying you can't win the league with Sundowns. But I just feel like it's so difficult that if you can still win trophies while qualifying for Africa and finishing second and third, that's an amazing job. Because like, do you think, like, what is your dream for Kaizer Chiefs? Like, where do you, like, if you had to say like a roadmap for Kaizer Chiefs in the next 3 years, like, what's the best case scenario? Like, can you even, like, in your wildest imagination, imagining them winning the league?
Do you know what's the hardest thing about being a Chiefs fan, Mike? I'm an older Chiefs fan. We were conditioned that as long as you win a trophy, it's fine. Like, for many years, we were just winning our one trophy. And as long as at the end of the season, now in this world of CAF and leagues and all of that stuff, like you're saying, it feels like such a big task. Like, just winning the league seems like such a big task right now. I was telling somebody, you know, last season, I think Sundowns won with a gap of 23 points. The season before was 16 points. The season before that was 9 or something like that. But then also, in the grand scheme of things, Sundowns has won so many leagues in general in the PSL era that it's like, is the league something for Pirates and Chiefs? You know, is it something you win here and there? Or do you focus on the cups and really go hard on the cups and hopefully win a Champions League somewhere? You can't quantify it. Like,
yeah,
it's so tough.
One now is obviously, like, when we used to play Confed, like,
yeah,
the truth is nobody wanted to be in Confed. Confed was like you almost try to get knocked out. They'd send the
B teams, yeah.
Because obviously the beginning of the tournament, you start in CAF, or you start Southern Africa, and you play all that, and it's like not too expensive, so you'd go there and it wouldn't be too expensive, and they'd be happy for the youngsters to go play that. But it was almost like, whatever you do, don't get through to the next round, because then we got to fund us going into Congo, fund us going into Gabon, fund us going all over Africa, and they don't want to do that anymore. But the reality now with Patrice is the Confed, like, is a big trophy to win now, and it's financially viable trophy to so, like, for Chiefs to now get into Confed is actually
huge.
Like, it's huge. And it's interesting to see how Chiefs will now play their hand in the transfer market, because are they going to now double down the way Stellenbosch did with their squad and strengthen their squad? Yeah, well, that, like, if they want to bring some sort of, because the Confed is a tournament now that Southern African teams should be getting, especially if Chiefs is in the competition, they should be getting to the semi-finals.
Yeah.
Because you should clean up Southern Africa, and then you'll fight your way through the qualifiers against some good teams. But Southern African teams should be progressing pretty far in Confed now, and now it's financially viable. Why wouldn't you chase that? Especially when we're saying that the league is just seems like an impossible task at the moment.
Do you think that we take them seriously in general? We've been having this conversation because, honestly speaking, I remember 2002 when Chiefs got banned. When Chiefs got banned from CAF because they just said, no, we're not going to play it. Like, we don't care. It's only Mamelodi Sundowns that has come in. And because Dr. Patrice Motsepe took it so seriously, now we kind of watch it, but I don't think we actually think about going out and winning it. Like, for example, I'm a Chiefs fan. We get to the final 2019. We are playing Ahly. We lose 3-0. I'm going crazy, right? Because I'm thinking to myself, geez, this was a chance to get a star. But I look around me and no one cares, and I'm like sitting there and I'm like, but guys, we were so close to having our own. This is what keeps me up. Like, I don't care about the league. I don't care about the cups. I need a star on the Chiefs logo, but it feels like no one else cares about it like that. And it feels that way for a lot of African competitions.
Yeah, like I'm interested to see how you feel, and you're quite good at judging sentiment online, especially. Like, how did you feel online and just the general vibe around South Africa for that Champions League weekend with Sundowns and Pirates in the semi-final? Because me as a football guy was looking at that weekend thinking, and Stellenbosch in the semi-final as well. That was the biggest weekend in South African football history in terms of like the gravity of what could have been achieved. We could have had three teams in the African final.
Yeah.
And I went and I didn't feel like I was at an event, and no one was even talking about the game. Like, no one was like on their phones like checking the results. And I was like there like on my phone like streaming the game, watching the game. And everyone was like, what game are you watching? And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I didn't feel that in South Africa that people were that worried about the fact that we had two teams that we could potentially have an all South African Champions League final.
Yeah.
Like, if you're thinking about UEFA Champions League final, like the whole country would stop.
Yeah.
But in South Africa, I feel like there's more hype around this Soweto derby that's just a league game than there was for that weekend. And yes, Chiefs is the biggest team in the country. I will give it, like, we can't argue with that, and they were not involved, so I take that into it. But South Africans that weekend, I just didn't feel that South Africa really understood how massive that was for the country. I don't know how you saw it on social media.
Oh, no, I feel exactly the same way. I feel the same way, obviously on my show, we watch everything. So the guys that I'm with every day, everybody was hyped. Like, we speak about it a lot, but I think Mike, in general, man, the conversation we have a lot here is about the marketing and positioning of African football to Africa, right? Sometimes it feels as though the CAF Champions League and the CAF Confed are not ours, right? Like, it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like the people who are meant to care about it enough, right? So the example I always use, right, is, the Springboks. If you look at how the broadcasters and how everybody comes together during that time, and I live in Pretoria. You can't go anywhere in Pretoria when the Springboks are on. You see the jerseys everywhere. I think we lack a little bit of some of that marketing too. Some of that, let's teach people how to be excited. I say the same thing about AFCON, for example. Ronald Williams has 4 saves in an AFCON. We finished 3rd. That video should be playing every single day. Like, you should be, at the very least, if I put on the PSL, I'm watching on Supersport or wherever, I should be seeing that every single day. Same with the Champions League. I mean, Mamelodi Sundowns is in a final right now. We should be seeing replays of the road to the final or this or that. Like, there should be narratives, there should be marketing, there should be so much. You shouldn't be able to escape it. But look at the derby, for example. You know, there's the press conferences, there's the videos, there's the things, you know, you can't escape it, right? But for the CAF Champions League, and I think that's where we need to catch up, especially for Africa, we need to catch up with Europe and those guys. There's a lot of marketing that's put behind that thing. You know, if CAF is having a final in Pretoria, Pretoria should be shut down for the next 2 weeks. You know, they should be going to every, I don't know, pick and pay in the area and saying, guys, all your cashiers are wearing Sundowns kits. You know, SuperSport, we've got a little video package that you need to play for the rest of the time, like they do at the Springboks. You know, the Springboks, I used to joke that you see Siya Kolisi more during PSL games, during that Betway run. You see them more than you see anything else. Like before games, it's them. After games, it's them. You see the adverts of Chasing the Sun. We should be having those type of things to remind people or to let people know, you know, and yeah, it's a huge, that was the biggest weekend in South African football history, but it just didn't matter.
In front of nobody. Like, and then Pirates game obviously was at Soccer City, like impossible to sell Soccer City out for that game.
Yeah.
The vibe wasn't great either because they've obviously some venue. So, I mean, it was still a good crowd. It was like 40,000, but it felt empty. I mean, Chiefs fans know that at Soccer City, it's too big a venue to host like a game like that. So I was just overall just like that. Yeah, we just missed the opportunity there. Where that was such a massive opportunity. It was the biggest weekend South African club history, and it just sort of passed us by. And I don't feel like South Africans really bought into it. I mean, I was big on social media saying no more Bok Friday, it's Bucks Friday. But like, it just, you don't get that same sort of, I didn't feel it. I didn't feel it from anybody. Like the people that I was speaking to, like, it was like, what, the Champions League this weekend? Oh, cool. Be like, what are you talking about?
Do you even think that as an event, because the other conversation we're having was, is the Champions League, the CAF Champions League, outside of when it's up there, is it an event? Like, you know how the World Cup is here? There's some people, for example, the World Cup was here. Some people who didn't care to watch football really just thought to themselves, geez, it's the World Cup, I need to go. You know, when you watch other big sporting events, it feels like it's an event in itself, you know? Do you think that we have that either?
I don't feel like it's part of South African football culture. Maybe that's the right way to put it. Like when you think about like UEFA Champions League, you know, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, you're not making plans with friends. 9 o'clock, don't ask me what's going on. I'm watching Champions League. Like it's part of Europe. You just know that's your time. That's Champions League, and it's been that way forever. With CAF Champions League, because of the way it is and the way you have to travel around and the way they fit in a fixture here and a fixture there, and some clubs are on a January to December schedule, others are on a August to May. Like, it's messy. Yeah, it's very messy. And like the fixtures get pushed all over the show, and you never really know when you're going to play. Whereas like Champions League's Tuesday, Wednesdays, you just know. Europa League's on a Thursday. That's just how life is, part of the culture. We don't have that in around the around African Champions League.
Do you think that?
So
do you think that?
If you look at it in North Africa,
No, I just wanted to ask you. Do you think that if they were to change the format, we would have that more? Like if we were able to see Al Ahly a little bit more, or maybe we were able to see the other teams, similar to what's happening in Europe, do you think that could help? Or, you know, I know we've got the problems of travel and all of that.
Yeah, because there's a whole, like, I don't think this is the time to open this can of worms, but like, should we not be playing on the same schedule as everyone else in Africa? Wow, are we the only guys playing on the European calendar? If we want to be serious and really compete in CAF competitions, should we not just be on the CAF calendar? Why are we playing on the European calendar? Why are we playing through an African summer? Nobody else in Africa plays through the African summer. Why are you playing in Thohoyandou in December in 35-degree heat? Surely
Yeah.
you should be playing through your South African winter. That just it makes a little bit more sense. I don't know why so that's a whole other can of worms that we maybe don't need to open tonight.
No, bad bike. No. What do you think is going to happen? Lastly, what do you think is going to happen this weekend? What's your prediction?
Derby.
Head on the chopping block.
I hate doing this because you're obliged to vote with your heart, but my head says the Pirates are still not fully back from the Champions League. But I just don't think Chiefs have enough firepower to turn them over. So I think it's going to be as boring as it sounds, either draw, Pirates sneaks at 1-0.
Okay, I agree. I think it's going to be a lot closer. It's going to be a lot. These games are very rarely like high tempo games, especially lately. So I think a lot of the things that they're just going to sit back, and I don't think Pirates wants to go too hard because, I mean, you also have to think a loss to Chiefs is a loss to Chiefs. I think Chiefs doesn't want to lose to Pirates like that, especially knowing that they have to go play the Nedbank the following week. So they're probably just going to sit back, and it's going to be, I'm going to say 1-0 Chiefs. Somehow they're going to steal it because Chiefs tends to, in the big games, sort of perform. Like if you think about that first leg, if Modi scores that chance he got in the first 5 minutes, maybe that game is on its head, you know?
Save, yeah.
You know, maybe it's a different game.
Comes back to what it is. To have a world-class keeper, that's where it pays off.
Hey, but also Modi should have finished that one, but
say what you want, like so many chances to finish it, but you give those good keepers a chance to make a save, and that's what they do.
And then lastly, can Pirates catch Sundowns? Is it done? It's done.
Done. As much as I'd love it, we just don't have the squad to keep going week on. Like, we're gonna have to rotate for Arrows again. We can't play Derby Saturday, Arrows same squad, Derby again. So again, you risk dropping points to Arrows in midweek. We don't have this squad that Sundowns has. Sundowns are not gonna drop points again. Now, obviously, they've got the Champions League final to worry about, but their squad is just, it's on another level. And they rotate their squad. I mean, Pirates, they don't rotate, they can't rotate. Yeah, it's done. What do you think?
Sure. There was a point, I think, where Pirates had a chance. There was a point where Sundowns was looking shaky. And if Pirates had won those games convincingly, I think there's something. Games in hand are always the worst. But if Pirates, they could have put sufficient pressure on. But I think this Kukune one more specifically, that was just, it felt like a final nail type of situation. It felt like a final nail in the coffin situation. So, yeah, I think that took everything away. And I also think Pirates maybe also focusing on just winning that Nedbank, win your 6th trophy, and take it from there, because Sundowns seems to have found another gear now. I think that win versus Ahly has given them some more wind under their sails. So we'll see. But it is done. I think Pirates is going to look for the Nedbank for me.
Yeah, no, I'll be happy with that, especially over Chiefs.
You never know, Mike. You never know. Mike, thank you so much for joining me. We need to do more of these.
Yeah, no, I loved it. Thank you so much. And we'll definitely do more of this. And maybe we do a review. And I'll be more than happy to come on, especially if Pirates win on the weekend.
No, man. No, you're more than welcome, Mike. You're more than welcome.
I've got no signal.
Well, if Chiefs win, I will call you personally, even if I have to put you on a WhatsApp call on the screen that way. But Mike, thank you so much for joining me.
Are you coming to the game, by the way? Are you going to be at the game?
No. I'm not able to come, so I'm going to just stream it from here.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
No, okay, well, we thinking of you from the stadium, and yeah, thank you so much, mate. You're doing amazing things, and keep it up, man.
No, man, keep it up. Thank you for joining our space.
Thank you, guys. I'm out. See you guys tomorrow at the derby.
Bye, guys. Yeah, guys, I'm also going to close because everything is going haywire on my side. So, guys, tomorrow we'll be here.